I'd like to thank you very much for coming to our exhibition today. My name is Sandy Sexton and I'm Chair of Trustees of Porter, and I'm very delighted to welcome our speaker today, who's going to have the first presentation of the day, Mr. Michael Caine, who is our patron. Mr. Michael Caine.
I had an idea of what I wanted to say today, and which is really to share with you a little bit about my life and how losing a limb and living with a sort of disability, I don't like saying that word, but and having a prosthetic has sort of affected, in one way, my life, but at the same time has actually inspired me to go on and be successful in another way. But when I arrived here, also, I'm really empowered by what's been achieved with this collection of wonderful, sort of, I guess, representation of what also is available for people in life who have a situation where they become immobile or lose a limb. And it's something which, at the time, it made me think back to when I first lost my limb, and I realised just how little people knew about losing a limb, becoming immobile, or suddenly having to live with a life-changing experience. Now, my life, when I grew up, I was very able, very physically fit, somebody that was full of life, that got on and did a lot of venturing outdoors. Always thought perhaps I might join the military, and grew up in a large family, 6 children. I was the youngest and by far the naughtiest as well. But I had a real appetite for life, you know, adventure, camping on Dartmoor, to swimming, playing water polo for county and west of England, cricket, football, athletics, you name it, I did it. And at 25, when I had my car accident, my life changed overnight. And at that point in my life, I'd never conceived the idea that anything would happen to me. I'd always thought that I was invincible. And I led my life very much up to that point, and still today, to a degree, that life was all about living to the full, which is, you know, the essence of the title of this conference, One Life Living. But what was also apparent at that age was just how quickly your life can change. I fell asleep at the wheel, and my car entered into the central reservation, and as it impacted and rode, it took off my arm. And I immediately woke up by impact and was surrounded by the circumstances of my situation, saw the loss of limb, the hand that was just sort of hanging there, doing not a huge amount. And then the whole situation that you have to deal with thereafter is about, first of all, survival. Secondly, you're coming to terms with the fact that you've lost a limb, and that everything in my life up until that point was all about being dexterous, you know, cooking, full of life, sport, riding a bike, pushing loads of weights in the gym. And I just thought my life has changed overnight. The first thing that happened is, how do I carry on? More importantly, I don't want to carry on. I just want to give up here and now. And then you focus a little bit more, and you realise that you've got some loved ones and family there that you can't let down. So as I was lying in Frenchy Hospital, not too far from here, and I saw my father for the first time, and I decided to come to terms with what had happened to me. It's then when I really started to focus on the fact that, well, if I'm going to live with a disability, or, you know, with loss of arm, you know, I still want to be a chef. I still want the opportunity to get back to work, to continue to follow my dream to be a great chef. But then I started to think of all these wonderful role models that existed of people that I knew in my life that had perhaps been through a similar thing. And I could only come up with one, and he was Horatio Nelson, some very heroic naval figure. That last night, I felt quite insignificant here, that was just falling asleep in my car and crashed it. So I felt really quite bad about the fact that my circumstances were somewhat less heroic, but nevertheless left me with the same disposition. So anyway, I said to Dad, look Dad, you know, I lost my arm. And he said, I know, son. I said, but you know, I said, I don't want to give up my job. So I was very lucky that I had the full support of my family immediately, friends, and of course my workplace, to go back into work. Now, very lucky that in one sense I only lost my arm, but I could have lost my life, I could have been completely immobilised, but I wasn't, you know. So within 4 weeks I was back to work part-time, and you know, back to work full-time, beg your pardon, in 4 weeks, part-time after 2 weeks. And I just wanted the opportunity to get back into the deep end. But what made me think about my circumstances today, then, is that a lot of what I've just seen today wasn't obvious to me then. A lot of the work that you're doing and a lot of the things that you're enabling people to do wasn't obvious to me then. It wasn't obvious because, you know, in my life I'd been, you know, completely oblivious to the reality of living with anything other than a, you know, perfect lifestyle. You know, I was able to do anything, go anywhere, and I didn't need to have any aids to help me, you know, get into a house. And I was completely ignorant to all of the wonderful work that you're doing. So as I got back into my work, you know, I was very much one of these people that you can dwell on your circumstances or you can have a positive outcome. So I was determined that that accident wasn't going to stop me from fulfilling my goals. So my rehabilitation actually was my workplace. I actually got straight back into the workplace, worked with my occupational therapist and started to create some of the solutions for my problems, either through designing or trying to advance my prosthesis, you know, my arm into something which was workable. The first couple of examples that were done, I have to say, weren't too great, and Expo mobility, I think, was represented today. But, you know, I remember being told, quite frankly, that you'll never be able to replace the hand. Well, it's an obvious one, you're not. But we can make it a little bit more practical than the hook that you gave me. And that's what we worked on. So we worked on, and we got a bioelectric arm. I went out to America thinking that I could buy this wonderful bio arm. But in the end, you work it out for yourself, and you work out what you need. And what you need is support, of course. You need the ability to get on and do your job, but also you need time to come to terms with the loss, but also time to come to terms with the changes within the environment that you work within. Now, I have very much built my career and reputation since my accident. So all of the success I've had has been since that day that I lost my arm. But most of what I have gained in knowledge and technical ability have been given to me before my accident. Now, I suppose when I look back, I would say the biggest change is that you know, the fact that people perceive me as somebody that's changed, but actually I've become more determined, I've become, I guess, more focused. But one of the things I didn't have to worry about is convincing people around me that I was up for the challenge. But the reality is, people still think that for whatever reason, that if you do have a disability, that somehow that's less abling when it comes to the workplace. And of course, most of the problem is convincing people that you are, of course, able to get on with the work, have the ability to get on with the work, and secondly, you know, give people the opportunity to have the opportunity to prove all of those things. So for me, getting back into the workplace helped me cope with my disability. Small steps, you know, were how I started. You know, I look back, and the first year was this time last year, I had 2 arms. Everything seemed so much easier. But as I went forward, a year on, I thought, well, this time last year, you know, I was really struggling, and now I've made so much progress. Now I look back 18 years ago, and it's hard to remember every detail. But I do remember how it felt to sometimes just feel a little bit lonely without support and without also the encouragement to have to persevere. And the work that you're doing is really important. The work that PORT-ER are doing is really important because, you know, we somehow need to get the message out into our communities that, that living with a disability or having the perception of something that's perceived to be debilitating is not actually the case. Most people I've met today who are amputees themselves are inspiring. The work that you're doing today is inspiring. I've already got a list of things that I want my mobility centre to be providing me with on my return to Exeter. But also, you know, the fact that you're here today in one place for people with disabilities, people who've lost limbs, or, you know, the fact that we can come here and find so much in one place to give us the knowledge and, if you like, the courage to continue back with rehabilitating into the workplace or going on with our lives is really important to us. Some of the stories that inspired me were meeting amputees and meeting people who were a lot worse off with me, and it just made me feel very humble. Sure, I lost an arm, sure, my life had changed, but actually a lot of people's circumstances were very, very, very worse than mine, very, very different. So it's important that we encourage the charity of PORT-ER and make sure that we get charities like that out there in the community representing our industry, which is, at the end of the day, supporting people with disabilities at whatever stage of that in their life affects them, whether it be by birth or by trauma, accident, or simply by old age. So we actually try and make people realise that the work that we do as a charity is important to the lives of the people living with those situations. My life story is one of success and seen by a lot of people now as something more the person than the person with the disability. I often meet people, when I first lost my arm, I thought everybody's looking at me because I had one arm. Now people look at me because they recognise me from the TV, or they see me, on Saturday morning kitchen making an omelette, or trying to make an omelette. I'll have you know that I make it faster with one arm than anyone else, and I'm in the top 10. But we don't tell that story, that's just a reality. But there's lots of things that are very, very positive. I mean, people come up to me and greet me and they want to shake my right hand as much as I'd like to shake their hand as I can. And they say to me, what's wrong with your hand? I say, well, it's not there, I lost my arm in a car accident. And they apologise profusely, and I say, don't worry, it's not your fault. And you have a little bit of banter. But the fact is, people don't see the disability, they see the person. And it's taken me a long time to change that perception, as not the guy with the chef with one arm, but the talented chef that's got a great successful career, 2 Michelin stars and a load of restaurants around the UK. But my story is inspiring to lots of people, that they're not people necessarily that have got disability, they're people that in life are perhaps challenged. We're all challenged in many ways. And see a success story like myself, and with the challenges I have, as an inspiring story for them. And a lot of you around the hall today have equal stories that are equally inspiring. But as a charity, the work that we want to do is get that message out to the community for us. And events like this, it's a huge commitment for the charity Porter to put this event on. And a lot of money that they've raised, hard work that they've raised. And if we're just having a chat, Diana was just talking to me about the fact that, if you're talking about cancer work, it's easy to raise money. But when you're talking about people that have got a loss of limb and then having to live with that, it's a very difficult story to get out. So I'm hoping that my story will help inspire people to give more generously to our charity, so we can continue to put on events like this, so you can showcase what you do, and those people living with disability can come along and be inspired, as I have today. And I haven't met you all, but I will make sure I meet you all by the end of the day. I know by the end of this I'm going to come away with an adventure holiday with the children, a new arm, and a few more inspirations to end up with the latest bionic arm. But the reality is, actually, what I will come away is feeling very encouraged that an event like this can change people's perception and also help people's lives. My story's mine, you all have yours to tell, but together we tell an incredible story of perseverance and of course success amongst all the challenges that we've had to overcome. So anything that we can do, anything that I can do to help us help others, it's got to be a great story to tell. So if I have the opportunity to meet you, and if I don't, then please, through the charity, get in touch, tell us how we can do more for you, and more importantly, tell us what we can do for our communities to make sure that people living with disability, people living with loss of limb, can actually have a better life. And have a life, one life is definitely what we have. I nearly lost it at 25, but I'll tell you now, I'm living every day to the full. And I don't see anything in life that I can't do. I see it as a challenge. And even the things that I can't do, doesn't mean to say I can't do it as a team, or do it with my family, or do it as a shared experience. And it's incredible, the people I've met along the way, the stories I've heard, the inspiration I've drawn from their own stories, keeps me feeling very humble. So congratulations to you all, keep up the good work. Supporter, you have my support, definitely. The work that we'll do, we should continue to raise money for a great cause, one that we're all so aware of. But it's not us that we need to take this story to, it's the wider public, and it's also to those people that find themselves, perhaps tragically, in a similar state that I was in when I was 25, having fallen asleep at the wheel and crashed my car, I need to find out what I was in. So the story, for lots of people, is not relevant, but we've got to make sure that we're on their radar and that people start to consider the challenges that we have got to deal with as a part of their life, and perhaps by giving something to us, in turn they can change people's lives for the better. So we have one life, and I'm determined that I live mine. So I hope that you live yours in the same spirit. Thank you very much for listening, and congratulations to you all.
To us, and that was very inspirational indeed. And you can have the opportunity to sample Michael's wonderful cooking at our Evening with Michael Caines, which will be in March, and you can find out about that on the Porter stands.
Saturday, March the 3rd.
Saturday, March the 3rd. Okay. So thank you very much indeed. That was wonderful. So we just hope you enjoy the exhibition. There'll be talks from now on in this speaker area right through till 2:30. And we are running just about exactly on time now. So in a moment.